Prevent this to supersize your business. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 162 of our Supersize Your Business annual challenge. Let's talk about this today, as well as we're still doubling up the P in the SOAP framework. Let's do that first. P in the SOAP framework stands for progress. How do we know that we are filling the gap by the actions we've taken, the options we're looking at, identifying where we are and where we want to be, creating the gap in the first place that we're filling in order to get to where we want to be with respect to the area of physical things in our business today and this week. So we picked a thing, we identified the gap, we brainstormed options, we analyzed those options yesterday, we took action on one thing. Now today we're like, okay, well, did it work or not? Are we making progress? Are we moving from where we are to where we want to be? It's usually a yes or no, and we usually know pretty quickly when we do things in our personal life and when we do things in our business, especially, unless we don't make a decision and we don't take action and we go slow. I say the faster we make decisions, the faster we test and try things out in our business, the faster we get the results we want. Now, if we don't get the result we want, guess what? We learned something. We had a lesson learned. We learned what didn't work, so we know that we can go ahead and do something else. The faster we keep iterating and doing those things, the faster we go from where we are to where we want to be. That's what I love about the SOAP framework. It's super duper fast. It doesn't take 4 days. I use this thing every single day of my life, this process. And I used it before, but I didn't call it the SOAP framework. But in 2020, I was like, all right, there's so many things being thrown at us. How do we deal with them? What's the most efficient and effective way? Because I'm all about continuous improvement and efficiency and effectiveness. What's the fastest way to do that? And so I analyzed the process. Well, how do I do this? How do I solve problems? How do I look at different situations and challenges? And it came down to the same 4-step process over and over and over again. And it's really closely related to Plan, Do, Check, Act, which I learned in college as part of my quality engineering training, right? So it's interesting that we have these same processes that we use, but we have to find a way to make them our own in order to continually improve, continually use, and get better and better and better at them. So today, share in the comments below, how are you going to know you're making progress? How are you going to measure it? The things that we can measure matter, right? I think if you've been in business any amount of time, you understand the importance of looking at different numbers and ways of measuring things in order to grow and scale your business. Same in our personal life. We look at different things in our health in order to know physically if we are taking good care of ourselves, if we're maintaining the level of health that we need to do the things we want to do in our lifetime, which leads us to today's topic. So share how you're going to measure, how do you know if you're making progress or not in the comments below. That's action item number 1. We're going to have 2 today. Don't get overwhelmed. It's not that hard. The next thing we're looking at, and this is really, it's kind of more on a personal level, and it's one I can really relate to because in 2010, I may have mentioned I had a sudden cardiac arrest. And that after that event, when I woke up after I was in the coma in the hospital and frozen and all this and going through cardiac rehab, I had to do a whole lot of research and a whole lot of changing. I quickly discovered that the statistics were against me surviving if I didn't make massive lifestyle changes. So I made massive lifestyle changes in all 9 areas and aspects of the life framework and of my life. I actually went all in on living using that framework again. I'd gotten a little bit lackadaisical about it because there was so much stress and so much going on in my life. You know, I think that there's decades in our life where we actually run through our life if we don't consciously step back and say, okay, well, this isn't working for me. How can I set my life up so that it's working for me in a more positive way? And frankly, until 2010, I didn't do that. I just kept moving. And I figured if I just kept moving, I'd be okay. And lo and behold, I discovered that that wasn't the best philosophy to living my life. So what is this thing we're talking about today? We're talking about cardiovascular health in the Supersize You annual challenge. And like I said, had the cardiac arrest, had to figure it out, and learned that the number 1 symptom of heart disease, which is the number 1 killer, at least in America, is death, especially in women. Men have a few more symptoms and signs that there's a challenge or a problem, but women just die. I didn't like that as this is the number 1 symptom of heart disease in women, right? That seemed kind of like nothing we could control. And then I did more research and learned more and realized that most of cardiovascular health is something that we as human beings have control over. We can control our diet. We can control our exercise. We can control what we consume. We can control our stress level by paying attention to what we pay attention to, as well as paying attention to and doing things that counteract when we are in stressful situations, right? There's all kinds of strategies nowadays. And since I've been on the school platform, I'm learning more and more and more and more and more. I never knew that we could regulate our nervous system and that was a thing. I never knew that, hypnosis and meditation and NLP and tapping and all these things existed, but they do. And they're all for our betterment as human beings. And if we're better human beings, we're better leaders. If we're better leaders, we're better business owners. For better business owners, our businesses perform better. So how does this apply to our business? Our business has a heart and a soul. Whether you believe that or not, I absolutely positively do. Our culture comes from us and our core values and the things that we decide to create and manifest in the world, right? So how do we impact that? Well, we want to make sure that we're managing our own health and our own stress. Because guess what? A dead founder and owner is not a very successful business person, right? I mean, I'm laughing about it now, but what if I had checked out in 2010? I think that, wouldn't have mattered to me, but would have mattered to a lot of people, especially to my family, my kids for sure. I never would have gotten to meet my amazing little granddaughters. So I want you to ask yourself, are you chronically stressed? What's your blood pressure? I challenge you, just like I did the people in Supersize You, to go get your blood pressure checked today. Like I say, walk into a clinic or go to the doctor, go get one. I actually have one because I made some choices that caused my blood pressure to go through the roof for a while, and they wanted me to go on another pharmaceutical medication, and I was like, I don't want to do that. So I did a 6-month challenge to get my blood pressure down. So I focused in on what do I need to do, what things impact blood pressure, what can I change in my diet and my lifestyle and everything else to get my blood pressure down to the level where I don't need medication. And I absolutely positively did that. I think it took about 60 days where it was stable, but I never did have to go on a prescription. Thank you very much. But let's look at stress, because that's probably the biggest impactor in our businesses. Are we creating a culture of hustle, stress, lack of sleep, not taking care of ourselves? If so, we can start changing that today by setting a better example and by being a better example. And if that is you, ask yourself why. Why do we think we have to run through our life and everything has to be an emergency? I don't know where we get that false belief, but those are definitely beliefs that are not serving us in the long run. Implement a system and systems that reduce stress. Think about boundaries. Do you share expectations and boundaries with other people in your business? Are you the biggest culprit in breaking other people's boundaries? If so, stop that immediately, right? You can control that. You can stop that. You don't need to be the person that's doing all the late night texting. You don't need to be the person that's freaking people out and making everything an emergency. Guess what? People like calm, confident leaders. People follow calm, confident people. If you are running a stress machine ship of a business, guess what? People are going to start jumping ship, because there are organizations out there where they can become a better version of themselves and they don't have to be freaked out and stressed out and traumatized all the time. Because guess what? Not following people's boundaries, not respecting them, that is actually traumatizing them in some way, shape, or form. Your business needs you alive. I think that's clear. And again, I'm definitely an example of that. And I don't recommend my path and my choices, but I will say that even though that's probably one of the worst things that's ever happened to me, it's also one of the best, because it caused me to have a second chance and make the changes I needed to change to actually create the life that I want and the life that I love. And I challenge you to do the same. We talked about looking at numbers and our heart-related cardiovascular numbers. Do you know them? Blood pressure, resting heart rate, cholesterol, things like that. Well, Well, that applies to our business too. Are you looking at the KPIs that matter? Are you looking at the things that are aligned with your core values and your culture as an organization and your mission, purpose, etc.? That's an easy way to reduce the noise and the stress that's in our environment, is by making sure that you're lined up with the things that are most important to you and your business and creating the business that you want. We can create a business that makes a lot of money, but if it isn't a business we love and we want, and I've been in 27 different businesses in different industries, and some of them were great businesses for making money. I mean, money hand over fist, ridiculous amounts of money, but I hated them. They were soul sucking. They didn't feel good to me. And those are the businesses I couldn't get out of fast enough. And there's other businesses that just feel good and were fun. And that's the one I was in the longest. And it wasn't about the money at all. It was about the people. It was about the culture. It's about building systems. It was about processes and improving and becoming a better version of myself. That was my favorite business. Until now. I like what I'm doing now much better. All right. Any questions about this? So share in the comments below one thing you're doing in your business to manage the heartbeat of it and make sure it's healthy in every level and area of your business, but especially in physical things. You know, is there maintenance you've been putting off? That might have been in your SOAP framework. Make sure that that gets taken care of this month, etc. Do the things you need to do to create the business that you love and the business that you want and the business that thrives with and without you. That's my goal, is to help people be able to step back from their business sometimes, take a vacation, relax, recharge your batteries. It's incredible. Every single time we went to Lake of the Woods, even though I would still have work with me throughout my many years of the Italian food manufacturing business, I would get ideas that I never had time to think about, and then I'd come back and implement those, and the business would grow to a new level every single time. Luckily, we went there once or twice a year. All right, so that's our topic for today. What are you going to do to measure your progress? Share that in the comments below. And then what's one thing that you're committed to do to make sure that the heart and soul of your business is healthy? Share that in the comments below too. All right, have an awesome day. If I can help you with this in any way, ask. Otherwise, I will, of course, be with you tomorrow.